What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the second commercial mixtape by Young Thug. Basically this product is called I'm Up and it came out in the winter of 2016. So the thing about this particular project is this is the follow-up to the Barter 6 project that came out in like the spring of 2015. Pretty excellent type fare as Young Thug started to amalgamate past mixtapes and started to get to commercial type fare just within the pitch of retail as far as those pitch can happen. Now, I reviewed Barter 6 way back in 2021. I wanted to get to some more of these type ones. I am eventually going to start reviewing more Young Thug solo mixtapes because he had been around since like the early 2010s as far as those pitches kind of happened. But so I'm going to get to some of those like 10, 17 Thug and some of those type pitches when he was heavily affiliated with Gucci Mane and some of those type ones. Definitely some stuff that's going to be on the way. But I look after it. This is the next one. This is kind of like the pseudo sequel to Barter 6 as far as this project is kind of like the pseudo sequel to Barter 6 as far as those pitches kind of happen with it. I just would look after the fair. This is like the next commercial mixtape in the one. Now, Young Thug really did not drop his true debut studio album until way out in 2019. I think it was called like So Much Fun or something like that. But Young Thug has quite a few projects. There's a lot of these. Like, I forget the name of his label, but there's like some folks like Gunna and folks like that on there. He does have like, there were some ones that were kind of happening back in the early 2020s as far as those pitches kind of happen in late 2010s. I'd say some good pitches. I'm going to get to some more of these. You start beefing it up the Young Thug playlist to get to some of these type fairs. But yeah, this is a pretty excellent type project here. Just a snappy type one to kind of get some excellent type fare for some of that. Basically like a continuation. Now, 3 years ago when I last touched base with like a Young Thug solo project, I had to say, I want to say I at least gave, I don't remember actually what I gave Barter 6, but nowadays I'd probably think I'd like that project a lot more. Just the concept of having that be like the spiritual successor to Lil Wayne's The Carter series definitely had that familiarity with just 2010's trap in mind as far as those pitches can happen. There is kind of a difference between that project and this one as 2010's trap started to amalgamate more and more of like the IG life and just more formatted type stuff like the Snapchat, Instagram era, some of these type things as more things like, you know, like Future's Dirty Sprite and Yo Gotti's albums, Drake and Future's What a Time to Be Alive, some of these type projects as trap started to become a lot more mainstream. I kind of feel like when Barter 6 dropped, it was still kind of in like the relative stages where it was starting to flesh out but not quite as full bound. I feel like it was still more in like the mixtape kind of more promo and buzz type format, but these are where it was starting to, some of these type projects here were where it was starting to be a lot more amalgamated and just within the style of getting fleshed out and just being able to have more commercial buys for us those pitches can happen. Folks, like there were some folks kind of leading that spearheading the style and leading the headway as far as those pitches kind of happen. Migos was kind of doing that. Future was kind of doing that. Yo Gotti in some stages was kind of doing that. There's some other folks. Meek Mill in certain instances. Travis Scott was definitely one of those that were kind of leading the flag as far as those pitches can happen. But Young Thug was definitely one of those. He was still a little bit more kind of in like, not so much the prenatal stages, but just kind of more ripened within the sense I just had to say within the tone behind it, but it didn't take very long. I mean, he definitely had a lot of, he just kind of played like the more street album type sense, kind of the way 50 Cent was in like the early 2000s, just with where he had that street appeal. He kind of had the more street appeal more so than full-blown commercial where he just had that particular market. That's kind of what Future did too. He just had more popularity, but Young Thug was definitely kind of like the hungry cat throughout a good chunk of like the 2010s. Throughout a good chunk of the 2010s, kind of seemingly as to why it took him until 2019 to actually drop his debut album, despite the fact that he'd been around for like 7 or 8 years by that point. But I just look at some good fares, pretty balanced type project here. Just would say out of the 9 songs on this particular project, I wound up recommending 7. So the only 2 songs I don't recommend in any fashion would just be the songs My Boys and then Family. So to talk about those real quick, I will get to the 2 singles. I like the fact there were 2 singles on here. That was kind of one of my only problems with Barter 6 is just the fact there weren't any singles out that project. But I'll go ahead and talk about both My Boys and Family are just more personal type ones that just didn't nail the style as much. I kind of feel like the aspect behind some of these, just when the tone switches up and like the aspect of like the aim of the song is just a little bit different. I mean, some of these type ones, Lil Durk kind of does these songs at times that just kind of switches up the tone a bit. It's not, I feel like when you get these types of songs, they're just a little bit more homebound and just a little bit more like hard on your sleeve type pitches. I feel like the impact behind them just has to, I feel like when you get more of these like homebound type songs, I feel like the impact just has to be a little bit more like, with at least with the production type, has a little bit more emphatic typeness just about it. I feel like definitely, like, I know that the concept of like a slower type song is just the pitch of just kind of being more where you don't feel like riding out and smoking a hell bunch and bitches, just that sort of tone, just, you know, raucous type fare as far as those kind of happen, but just within the tone of just, I don't know, trying to think of like a trap artist that does like more personable type songs. So like when you think of like Eminem doing like a song like Mockingbird or something like that, just the production for that just kind of has that swampness about it, just something within that tone. Or When I'm Gone, one of those type pitches, but it's just kind of the fare behind it. But that's the thing. But yeah, basically talk about the two singles here. Basically, Fuck Cancer Boozy is a real nice one. It's like a rickety and kind of bullish kind of buzz single to kind of get here. Definitely some good turn up, I'd have to say. Like the mosh energy about this particular one. It feels like a rowdy kind of rickety. This feels like a rowdy kind of rickety standard antics to kind of get here, and this is just some crunk fun to kind of have. Like the fact that Quavo is on this particular song. This feels really routine and just kind of almost vanilla, circa like mid 2010s trap as far as those pitches kind of happen. The more I look after this, is just kind of concept of just seeing the. I feel like Young Thug has outstripped this song in a lot of senses since way back in 2016. It's just kind of the fair, but around the time this was stated the art as far as that pitch kind of went, just seeing the concept of this was probably one that was like, hey, you know, what's he gonna do next within that tone? But it's not a bad song. I definitely enjoy this song quite a bit. It's just kind of concept. It feels vanilla compared, and there are songs that outstrip this song on this particular product, like Hercules, and Breadwinners are definitely two songs that have more flex power and just overall more aspect, just having more bite towards them. I'd probably say like possibly like Special's another one that's kind of like that as well. There are more vicious songs in this particular one, but for like a trap single that was kind of aiming for some of that to kind of get that airplay just within a vanilla type sense, it's a relatively commercial trap, but it's just kind of the concept that, yeah, not really complaining about it, just kind of saying the concept of this feels vanilla in nowadays times with all the stuff that Young Thug's done. So it's a good pitch for that, but nice pitch. And For My People is the second single on here. Now this is a little bit more in-between type one. It's like a gelled out kind of smooth in-between kind of day. It's like a gelled out kind of smooth in-between type day kind of song kind of get here. Just some chit-chat and kind of house party commotion I'd say about this one. And by commotion I don't mean like raucous commotion, but just kind of the concept of just standard kind of like regular speaking voice type tone, not so much rowdy kind of yelling pitches like that, but just the tone of just standard kind of regular voice type tone, just would say within that, just a serene kind of smoke up a bit and just enjoy the fare as far as those pitches kind of happen. Is more of like maybe Tuesday afternoon kind of music just within the tone, something like that, just standard concept of routine type fare, standard day, just having a few folks over, smoke like a couple sweets, and then just leave as far as those pitches kind of happen. Maybe watch a quick football game or some quick Jackass, something like that, watch quick movies, something of that type fare. Standardness just kind of get. But yeah, some good kind of socialness about that song. So yeah, like I was saying, recommend every other song on here I'd have to say. So Breadwinners is a pretty immediate highlight. This is like an uppity kind of quick day out and about, I'd have to say, in a sense. Just the dramatic and kind of tensive blurred times kind of get here. Probably one of the quickest songs just in general I had to say out this particular project. This real vicious type one. It's like a stellar stunt gem to kind of get here. So just appreciate the tone of this particular one. Goes great with Hercules. Had to say just an excellent type fare to kind of get that particular one. Just the aspect of having some of these type ones. It's real. I kind of feel like it doesn't feel like as much full blown like there's nightclub songs on here as much. I feel like it's just kind of more like there is some local type fare. I feel like at least which one is it? Like I kind of feel like songs like King Troop and like Special are some ones that kind of have that relative typical kind of Zaytoven trap kind of house party type fare. And I feel like F Cancer is just kind of a more local commotion within like a relative kind of hole in the wall buzz type club as far as those pitches kind of happen. But in terms of like a song that's like by Migos, like Slippery or like Bad and Bougie, some of that typeness, I feel like this album, I feel like this project and album, while it does have the bite about it in particular, I feel like the concept of having like, in terms of having like that number one or number five, number 10 type singles as far as those pitches kind of happen, I feel like it's still kind of, like I was saying, it's just more kind of within the buzz stage. It's not to say in terms of quality, I mean, this is going to get a real high score, but it's just kind of within the pitch of looking for a hit like Migos was in 2017 or Future was in 2015, some of those type fares, or Drake was in 2015. It's just kind of within the pitch, just kind of more, not so much hardcore kind of territory, but just kind of more just like buzzing kind of territory, just kind of more on deck, I'd say, just within the tone behind it, just within that. But I look after it. So I'm trying to think of some ones on here. Like Special, yeah, I'm going to talk about this one. It's a quality one. That says Offset and Solo Lucci on here. It's pretty good tone for that. It's like, this reminds me definitely of vintage kind of 2010 Zaytoven. I'd have to say definitely some house party kickoff to kind of get. Feels like a Migos cut, I would definitely have to say. Some of their type fare from like their 2015 or 2017 albums. Definitely within the pitch behind that. And it's like a stock trap heat to kind of get here, I'd have to say. So some good pitches for that. It's real typical type fare. Just reminds definitely of Gucci Mane, some of that typeness that you probably heard 2012, 2014, some of those type pitches just just within the tone behind it. Just excellent type fare to kind of get that one. Really has a nice bass thump on here. Do you like the piano, or do you like the kind of typical kind of more Beethoven type piano type beat on the chorus as far as those pitches kind of happen. Hercules is a nice one. It's like an uproar kind of snarl and cruise out type song kind of get. Definitely similar to Travis Scott and some of his more uproarious type ones. It's kind of more like ride out and just kind of heavy. It's kind of more ride out and heavy knocks as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just the factory kind of dope mid 2010s trap burner. I'd have to say about this one. This song hops pretty good. So it's definitely one that you can hear from a distance. I'd have to suppose just within the pitch behind it. It's a real nice one to kind of flex to and just have some excellent type tones just within the fare. This is another vanilla and stock kind of mid 2010s trap ride out as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just like Fuck Cancer's kind of like a mid. It's like Fuck Cancer's kind of like a vanilla kind of club hitter as far as those pitches kind of happen. Hercules is like a vanilla kind of nightclub. Hercules is kind of like a vanilla kind of ride out song, kind of get just within those tones. I'd have to say Riding is a pretty nice one. This is basically like a Viking like kind of horror trap, kind of a blend of horrorcore and trap music just within the tones. Pretty good pitch for that. Just good concept, kind of get some of that within the tone. I remember this album is not quite as freakish as like Barter 6 was. I kind of missed that particular tone of some of that unorthodoxness that was kind of on there. This is more of like a standard and kind of more factory kind of mid 2010s trap. Just embrace the styles a little bit more. But I do remember like some of the kind of like voodoo like kind of appeal of like Barter 6. I do need to purchase that particular product, but yeah, I just remember that one being kind of an outlandish type one. This one's not as much like that, but I do look after the tone that basically like Riding is kind of like some horror type appeals about it. It's like some horror trap kind of dungeon type music for like some hangout type fare to kind of get. This more kind of localized type fare, a little bit more in like a more ghastly type sense compared to Special, but they're both good punches kind of get for some hangout fare. It's like a trip hard, definitely some loud pack kind of get crazy and loosen up song to kind of get here within that pitch. So yeah, kind of the most outlandish one off this particular product. Good concept to have a little Dirk on here just within the tone, kind of the pitch. I mean, he was kind of more in the in-between back in these particular stages back in 2015, 2016. I think he at least had some albums out. I'm going to have to check out some of those within the pitch, but I look after some good concepts just within, like seeing the gnarly kind of hangout that gets crazed as far as this pitch can happen. So it's good fare for that. Then King Troop is a quality one. So this is like a colder weather kind of brush. King Troop is kind of like a colder weather kind of brush, I would say about this one. Just an out and about kind of rumination, just local fun kind of goodies I'd have to suppose extra whatnot to kind of have within that fare as far as that pitch kind of happens. Paying like simple bills, hitting up a mailbox and that type fare, getting some swishers, just getting extra stocks up, getting some lighters, some of those type pitches. I'd have to say just a good tone for that, and it's just a song that feels pretty nice about it. Just to feel nice, kind of maybe stone a little bit, red eyes a little bit, just in that fare, just in the winter type brush of it, just kind of standard out and about, just extra thoughts type fare, just in the pitch behind it. It's a good in between type one. Do like the appeal behind some of this. I do like the local type appeal of most of this project, just within the tone. Songs like King Troop, songs like Special in certain senses, and Fuck Cancer's pretty good with that, and like For My People's like some good house party type fare, so it's just some good appeals. I mean, there's not a ton of like Travers kind of out and about type ones, at least on foot type ones, but what I'd say is just within the tone of just having some extra type moments for just neighborhood kind of jaunts and pitches like that, I'd say. So it's just within the tone behind it. But yeah, so that's the pitch about this project. So me recommending 7 songs out of 9 on here. I'm going to give this album like an 8.75 out of 10. I feel like within the fare behind it, when you do, like basically, 6 out of 9 would be 2/3 of the project, so you would think that it would get like a 6.5, 6.75 out of 10, not liking, having 1/3 of the project, but having one extra song. 7 out of 9 is kind of within the pitch. You just have to say, would it be 7? I think it's within the blistering amount of how many songs out of the package that there are, but still within the shortened package of how many songs there are. I'd have to say it's just, I'm going to give it like an 8.75 just in the tone. I feel like it definitely has the vicious quality. There's a lot of good ones on here. There's a lot of good gems just to be able to say. Hercules is a real nice knock of one to kind of get for some out and about. This really has vicious pace. Breadwinners is like that too. 2 great ones for just out and about, just stunt type music. Specials like a good house party type fare. It takes it back to Beethoven kind of house party, localized type fare. King Troop's like some good wintry kind of rumination. For My People's like a good mellow kind of house party type bop. Fuck Cancer's like a good buzz type club song. Probably need another song like this, but just within the pitch, some good stuff there. And then it's another song I forgot to talk about. Riding's like some good horror type trap to kind of get within that tone. So it's just within the pitch behind it. Just within the pitch behind it, I'd say. But yeah, 8.75 definitely easily kind of gets that just within the tone, just because the quality behind these. So yeah, 8.75 this album gets in particular as far as those pitch kind of happen. But the social score is going to get a 9 out of 10 because I feel like there's blistering songs on here. There's really, apart from like the 2 personal moments that I didn't recommend as much, most of this album is pretty social and just overall gab and just pitch like that. It has plenty of affable chit chat just within the tone behind it. The house party type fare here. I mean, it doesn't have like a vicious kind of nightclub knock or like a single that's like a #1 or top 10 single, something like that. It had to stay within the tone behind it. But I look after the fair that there is plenty of good affable bops kind of get, especially in like a trap sense for just like the trendy kind of products of becoming more increasingly yesteryear it has to. I mean, I still feel like 2016 is not terribly long ago, but it's long enough to be able to say that it's somewhat retro within recent times, considering that Young Thug has been in prison since early 2022. It's just a concept to get folks familiar with some of these type ones that maybe don't remember 2015, 2016, 2017 as much as far as those pitches kind of have. It's just the tone. I mean, he's not a relic yet, but it's just kind of within the tone. It's just some good pitches for some of these, I'd have to say. So yeah, it's just a good bop here. It's kind of within that. So in terms of the future, like Young Thug just got out of prison recently. Excellent type fair to kind of get that. Good type tone to see what's going to happen here. I realize that with his parole sentence and that sort of stuff, he may not be able to be as full-blown crazy as he was back in the 2010s and early 2020s, but hopefully that doesn't change the output of his music. I remember the 2023 album he dropped was kind of here and there just because of the tone of him not being able to really get his full-blown crazy within the pitch. So hopefully that doesn't like stunt like the concept of these albums that are going to come out, because he is going to be on probation or parole. Well, probation I think for 15 years or something like that. So it's not anytime soon that it's going to be where he'll be off papers. But I just look after it's going to be some excellent type fare just within the pitch behind him. But yeah, this is a rock solid type album here just to be able to get, and I do recommend it. It has plenty of good social turn up in like a local and kind of wintry type sense.